My name is Anton. I work for Gnosis, and this talk isn't super prepared, but we just have a lot going on in the decentralized exchanges at the time, and so I'm excited to talk about it, basically. We just have a lot going on right now. So how many of you guys are familiar with Ether Delta? One person. OK, so Ether Delta was like the Model T of decentralized exchanges. It was one of the very first decentralized exchanges, and this field is truly going to be huge because centralized exchanges like we currently know, like the Nasdaq, like Coinbase, places where people get coins, they have flaws, basically big flaws, where they can lose your funds, like my friend was showing. You can get all your funds, they've lost millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars over and over. And there's no way to stop it. And decentralized exchanges also can't be censored, for example. So there's nobody that can stop you from trading value, whether it's a token of one sort, of another sort, whatever it is. And there's no middleman, so the middleman can't take a fee every time. Like Nasdaq and all the centralized exchange forces and the forces that regulate them have withdrawn tremendous funds from the economy. And all of that is going to be very much wiped out by these decentralized exchanges. But right now, decentralized exchanges are probably 1% or less than 1% of the trading volume. They're very, very small. And the reason for that is simply that to get money into crypto from traditional fiat currency into crypto, you need to go through a centralized exchange. Decentralized exchanges do not connect to the outside world. So all the volume right now is happening on centralized exchanges, and then some people are starting to use the decentralized exchanges, which are much more efficient, whereas they don't get hacked and everything I just explained. And Ether Delta was the first one, that got volume out of those. And so there's different types of decentralized exchanges. But Ether Delta, by the way, the founder of Ether Delta has already been fined. So it's not like that's just happened. That's just something to note, that the founder of Ether Delta has already been had trouble. And so decentralized exchanges are possible in a way where nobody owns a thing, to where nobody can get fined because nobody has control. And there's different ways of doing decentralized exchanges. There's a few models for doing them. And for example, you can have a traditional order book. And that's kind of how traditional exchanges operate. They operate on an order book, if you guys, everybody familiar with traditional standard order books. But there's also been different models for decentralized exchanges that are coming out. And they basically break down into three and a half different ways to do exchanges. So the first one is the order book method. That's what most decentralized exchanges so far have been using because it's simple to program, because it's what people are used to. The second method is this automated market maker where you put two assets into a pool, and based off their relative value against each other, there's an algorithm that can tell the price of the asset. And examples of that are something like Bancor and Uniswap right now. On those, for example, on Uniswap, anybody can, in a permissionless manner where nobody can stop you, basically, put money into a liquidity pool. That liquidity pool is then priced against each other based off the value of those assets against Ether. And then people can trade those assets just off the liquidity pool being pooled together at accurate prices based off of just the algorithm formula, basically, of how much of each asset there is in a pool. If there's a ton of Ethereum in the pool, but less Gnosis tokens, then it can calculate the price. And then as people trade, it will keep balancing that liquidity. And the people that provide liquidity, they get a percentage of all the fees. So you can simply put your money into the Uniswap and also act as a liquidity provider to make money on the fees. That's one way of doing it. That's like the market maker way. The order book way also has a lot of trade-offs right now, where the order book way has, which is what people are used to, isn't nearly caught up to the standard variant. The way that Nasdaq does things, it's very efficient. You go and you do a trade, and you get your trade done. Whereas when you do things on the blockchain, it has to be verified by everybody in the space. So it's very there's a lot of technical challenges that are being worked out right now, basically. Where, for example, Ether Delta, the first one, everything was on the chain. So every trade that you want to make, every order that you want to put on the order book, every order that you want to cancel off the order book, it's on the Ethereum. It was on the Ethereum blockchain. And that opens you up to, since the Ethereum blockchain is a public blockchain, when you place an order, everybody can see that order. And one of the big problems that exchanges have had so far is what's called front running, where somebody that can see your order and then place their order ahead of yours. That's called the front running issue, because they can see your order in the pool of Ethereum transactions. And since Ethereum is a public chain, that's one of the issues that order book exchanges are trying to solve right now. That's precisely why we built the DutchX protocol, actually, to solve that specific issue more than anything else. Just because it's unfair that the miners especially can get ahead of anybody in that line. The third type of decentralized exchange is the auction-based exchange. That's one of the ways that we have built it. Basically, the decentralized exchange at Gnosis, we use an auction model where it's a Dutch auction. If anybody's familiar with the Dutch auction model? Nobody? Okay. So the Dutch auction model works like this. You put tokens into a pool, and an auction starts. And the auction starts at twice the price of the previous auction. And if it's the first auction, you can set the price yourself. So let's say you want to sell some Gnosis tokens for some Ether tokens, for example, for some Ethereum. And so you fill this pool up with Ether and Ethereum, and you start the auction. The auction starts at a pretty high price, and it gradually, over time, it starts dropping. And people start buying it as it drops, as the price drops. And when the price with the buy volume matches the sell volume at that price, the auction completes, and everybody gets their tokens at that same price, even if it's lower than what you bid. And it usually takes quite a while. It usually takes about 6 hours to complete one auction. But it's the mechanics of the system are such that nobody can get an unfair advantage in the trading. So from the buyer side, everybody's just incentivized to place the actual price that they want to buy the token at. And from the seller side, it's very simple, where it's one button, you just click, I want to sell the token. And the trade-off that we made is that it takes more time to get your tokens, basically. You can leave it, you don't have to watch the thing or anything, you just put your order in, but you're not going to get the tokens for some time until the auction completes. And the auctions run continuously, one after the other, as long as there's liquidity in the pool. Now, the DutchX protocol, it has a token called Magnolia. And the Magnolia token, even though anybody can add any ERC20 compliant token, which is like the tokens on Ethereum, to the DutchX protocol to start running these auctions, there's tokens that are whitelisted. The first tokens have been whitelisted by Gnosis, basically, right now. Those tokens, when they're traded, when you trade them, they produce the Magnolia token. So just by trading on the DutchX protocol, there's a fee. And the way that when you pay the fee, you get Magnolia tokens. Now, these Magnolia tokens get you fee reductions. And right now, well, the way that it's built right now, the DutchX protocol, the way that it's built, is that the fees that are paid from the previous auction get transferred over to the next auction as a bonus. So in every auction, there's an added bonus from the previous fees. We don't take money out of the system for the fees. They just get placed into the next auction. And if you have Magnolia tokens, you get a fee reduction, basically, and then those get placed in. So it incentivizes kind of like continuous cycle of auctions. That's how the DutchX protocol works. So Gnosis has, 2 days ago, we built the DutchX protocol, and we have ceded control over it. We have ceded control over the DutchX protocol to this thing, this DXDAO. What the DXDAO, how many of you guys are familiar with decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs? Some people, quite a lot of people. So this is a partnership between Gnosis and Downstack, and Downstack is a DAO provider, basically. They build DAOs in very interesting ways. I would encourage you to check them out. But this DXDAO is a partnership between Gnosis and Downstack for a DAO to take control of decentralized exchanges specifically. And this was launched by us 2 days ago. So right now is the staking period on the DAO, where we have given up control of this entity, the DutchX, for the DAO to govern, and the DAO is currently in a process called the staking period, where in various ways, if I scroll down here, okay, I'm not going to scroll down there. Okay. So in various ways, you can participate and get reputation voting power in this DAO to manage the DutchX protocol, which we've given away to the DAO. And we don't have anything to do with the DAO or the DutchX anymore. The DAO is a separate entity from Gnosis. The DutchX is a separate entity from Gnosis. We don't work on either of them anymore. Right now is a staking period. Currently, you can get voting power in the DAO through 4 or 5 different ways. Now, the ways to get the voting power, the lockup period to get voting power is going to last for the next month. It's been 2 days. Right now, there's currently 8% of the pool, of the voting pool, goes to people that lock up Ether into the contract. So if you lock up Ether, you will get your Ether back after 30 days. And this is at your own risk, by the way. We have nothing to do with this DAO. Like Gnosis says, this is not Gnosis DAO. This is not Gnosis DutchX. You can lock up your Ether for 8% of the pool. Now, at the end of that, you will get your relative Ether worth of the 8% of Ether locked up. 30% of the pool is received by people that lock up whitelisted ERC20 tokens, the tokens that have been whitelisted by the DutchX trading protocol. And those are like, there's quite a few of them. There's maybe 15 or 16. A lot of the bigger ERC20 tokens are whitelisted, basically. 50% of the pool is gotten by getting Magnolia tokens, which I just explained from the DutchX protocol. So the Magnolia tokens have just started generating. They started generating 2 days ago for people that are trading whitelisted tokens on the DutchX. Those whitelisted tokens, as soon as you trade them, they generate Magnolia. And so the Magnolia, if you sign up for this thing, they will, you will automatically, your account will get 50% of the power, voting power in the DAO gets broken up basically by the people that have Magnolia, based on their percentage of Magnolia. And then 8% Downstack has donated just based off their gen tokens, and 2% goes towards like people that tweet and stuff, like storytellers. So that's the breakdown of the thing, and it's going to be running for the next 30 days to get the voting power, to generate voting power in the Downstack, in the DXDAO. Downstack has a very interesting model of how to do DAOs, and I'll quickly go over it, just very quickly, because one of the big problems with DAOs that people are trying to come up with different mechanics for is how to generate cohesion, like get people organized at scales, because like if we want to make a vote for something simple, like should we have that light or not, and we have like 5 million people in the DAO, like do we need 51% of those 5 million people to approve of it? So what Downstack Model does is that it lets you play a little prediction market game with the votes, where you can bet on if a certain proposal will be passed or not. And by betting on it, that will boost it up forward to where you need less than 50% of the people to pass it. So it's a way that we're trying to do scalable DAOs that can act autonomously with a lot of people and scale, basically. That's the DutchX and the DXDAO. Now, that's what's happening with that. And you can participate here at this website, dxdao.downstack.io. There's more information there. This was kind of short notice for me. I wish I could have prepared more. There's a lot more that we actually have going on at Gnosis and a lot more to talk about. We also have one more decentralized exchange project that I wanted to talk about. And yeah. So the other project that we actually have two decentralized exchanges projects. Well, now we only have one project for decentralized exchanges because we have given the Dutch X away. Like, we no longer control that. The smart contracts are deployed on Ethereum. But there's another decentralized exchange project just to kind of give you guys an example of what's possible with the new technology is called diffusion. And the way that diffusion works is the fourth model of decentralized exchanges. The first one is an order book. The second one is the market maker, where the pools of tokens are matched against each other. The third one is the auction. And this fourth model is a batch auction. So what a batch auction, it's a batch, it's weird to even call it an auction, but it's a batch trading scenario, basically, where rather than having one order book matched against something else, like, for example, you might have like $1 against the yen, or like Ether against the dollar. So they match one order book against each other. There's, the batch model, it functions a bit differently. In the batch model, right now we have it to where every 3 minutes there's a round. And people put into that round what they want. You just put in, I want to sell 10 Ether to buy 5 Golem tokens, or I want to sell $5 to buy 10 Ether. And everybody from this room, imagine, or from the world, puts in their tokens and their assets into this auction. And then we incentivize, currently the way that it works is that once those assets are put into the auction, people can run solvers for the global maximum kind of the wealth of the whole community, kind of the maximum like thing that the trade that's best for the whole community. And whoever comes up with the best solution for that trade, the batch auction mechanism will spit out that trade. So everybody puts in the trade that they want, and then the best solution based off the solution that's provided, that's incentivized, gets kind of spit out of the machine, and that's what happens. It trades across multiple order books, and it should be able to trade any asset that you would like, as long as other people would like to buy it and somebody would like to sell it. And it will optimize. Like, for example, if you want to sell a bunch of Ether for some DAI, and you would like to buy some DAI, you would like to sell some DAI for some Ether, but then there's a better trade that can be made by trading your DAI to this gentleman's Golem token, then that's the trade that will happen. And everything that cannot be traded just gets put back to the original owners every 2 minutes or so. So in this solution, this is an exchange where there's no custody. Nobody can stop you from trading. You don't need to register with the government, the regulator fees. There is no front running, so there's nobody that's really able to take, like, to get an unfair advantage in that. And it should be fairly simple. Pretty excited about that. Very excited about this. Right now, it's only been 2 days, there's already a ton of Ether and tokens locked up in this thing. So we're kind of like, it's been formally verified. Like, we have an outstanding track record of security and everything, but I just want to reiterate again that this is not a Gnosis project. This is, DXDAO is a separate entity. Yeah, it's completely at your own responsibility to participate or not participate.